really angry about it. There's no reason for this. And if everybody followed through and do what they're supposed to do, we wouldn't have this problem.
Mayor Jim Kinney is not holding back as the search continues for 2 escaped inmates from the Philadelphia Industrial Correctional Center. Investigators say 18-year-old Ameen Hurst and 24-year-old Nasir Grant are on the run after cutting a hole in a fence in the recreation yard.
Clearly the system's screwed up and people didn't do what they're supposed to do. It's clear. But we want to find out exactly who, exactly how often, and what we got to do to shore it back up again.
Investigators tell us the 2 men were in the same unit but different cells. They say Hurst and Grant missed 3 separate head counts, but somehow were accounted for. Prison leaders say they were alerted to the escape nearly 19 hours later.
We have ongoing perimeter patrols as well as campus patrols just to make sure that there are no additional incidents, but this is part of our investigation.
According to police, Grant came to the prison last year for drug and gun charges. Hurst, on the other hand, they say, has been at the Correctional Center since March of 2021. Investigators stress he's charged with 4 homicides. In a statement released by the family attorney, it reads, "The Hargrove family prays no one else is injured or further harmed now that Mr. Hurst is no longer in custody."
Christmas Eve for many is a time for happiness and cheer. But in 2020, a 16-year-old Philadelphia teen began to tame his thirst for violence. At the 1800 block of Wynwood Road, police would respond to a shots fired call and find Daewoo Nishon Scruggs 20 on the ground suffering from several gunshot wounds to the torso. On December 25, 2020, the lean prankster with the trim mustache was on Instagram Live, as usual, walking on Wynwood Road to catch the 65 bus in Overbrook to take him to his job stocking shelves at Home Depot. He calls out to a man behind him. The camera pans to the bare trees above, before the pop, pop, pop of gunshots cut the video short. Even Daewoo's smartphone was riddled with bullets. With his older brother David initially seeing the video, the shot sounded like a prop in bad taste. He kept waiting for the punchline. He was taken to a local hospital, where he was pronounced dead, 14 minutes before Christmas Day would become official at midnight. He would never again see his home on Lebanon Avenue in Philly. He would never again see the snowfall on a Christmas Day. Never again see his siblings or his parents. His shooter would run off into the dark of the night. The Christmas Eve slaying quickly made the rounds on social media, with rumors circulating that Daewoo had been gunned down for posting an earlier video in which he talked trash about Chicago rappers. His family would dispute that narrative, explaining that his killing likely stemmed from a friendship gone sour. Scruggs' sins, police say, where he was simply filming a social media post. People would say Scruggs took life's ordinary moments and twisted them beyond social conventions. He was a young, aspiring comedian seeking recognition through social media, and now, his life, forever lost. Was the killer an assassin, or was this a one-time thing? It was not long before his gun would go off again, taking the lives of more young men in Philly. On March 11, 2021, in the middle of the afternoon, the birds would stop chirping as gunshots raised out like a bell. As shells fell to the ground, 4 more young men would do the same in an Overbrook Park parking lot. Their friends would try to save them, as all were taken to the hospital by private vehicles. The assassin had struck again, leaving 2 dead and 2 alive. Naquan Smith, 24 years old, would feel the hot lead hit him in the chest, the arm, and shoulder at 3:12 p.m. He would take his last breath. 16-year-old Tamir Brown, who was hit up several times, would fight for his life at the hospital, but his battle too would end much like Naquan Smith at 7:48 p.m. when his eyes closed for forever. Another 16-year-old who had never really experienced life lost his. A West Philly war or just victims? Young Tamir was struggling and had been on his own pretty much for many years, since his mother died when he was in 2nd grade. The streets had claimed him, but never loved him. This could easily be you. The other 2, both 19 years old, would find luck on their side as they would continue to breathe, despite being shot by the young Philly assassin. West Philly owed to the 4, 2 lives lost. His thirst to pull the trigger and taking lives as if he were God would not end. Just a few short days after laying Naquan Smith and young Tamir Brown down, the killer would strike again on a cold March 18th, when Rodney Hargrove was released from the current Fromhold Correctional Facility. The assassin knew that his target was getting out and that the jail would drop him off at the bus station near the jail. While waiting for a ride out of the jail's vicinity and dreaming of a good meal and beautiful young woman, the killer would bust shots from a vehicle. At the sound of the first shot, Rodney began to run towards the jail looking for refuge, but it would do no good. He ran past the entrance gate where a guard usually is posted, but there was no guard on this day, and the vehicle followed. More shots rang out, hitting Rodney several times. He would look into the sky and take his last breath at 8101 State Road, still dreaming of that beautiful woman and a good meal. The killer would disappear, spreading off in a car undetected. But for how long? No one would expect a killer to strike at the jail, but this killer had no conscience. Murder was his destiny. The streets would talk, and it would not be long before homicide investigators locked onto their man. 16-year-old Ameen Hurst was the main suspect. There was a full court press to find the 16-year-old assassin, and before long, police would have him in an interrogation room. Eventually, he was charged with all 4 killings along with 2 other robberies, illegal gun possession, and conspiracy. Sitting in jail, he was left with the reality that he would likely never walk out of jail or prison a free man, and he began to plot his escape. Together with another prisoner, Nasir Grant, who was in jail awaiting trial on 6 counts of illegal gun possession, manufacturing, delivering drugs, receiving stolen property, and conspiracy, would put a plan to be free in motion. After all, they were in a jail like many places where no one cares, no one pays attention. When the time was right, both went into the outside yard area and were then able to escape through a triangular-shaped hole that had been cut in the fence. It was not unusual for them to have had access to the yard in the evening hours, and off they went into the world of the free at about 8:30 p.m. Police would conduct 3 prisoner head counts at the jail throughout the day before anyone realized that the 2 young men were missing. The 11 o'clock p.m. count would come and pass. Then the 3 a.m. count, and again the 7 a.m. count. And some have said they were not discovered missing until the 11 a.m. count. With their faces plastered everywhere and rewards of 5 G's from the marshals for each man, along with 20 from the great city of Philly, how long do you think they will be free?
This kid could be anywhere, right? He could be anywhere, facing pretty much the rest of his life in prison, never going to get out. He's in jail, 4 murders, definitely a heartless felon, not part of the gang from Cleveland. But you could tell, man, this kid was heartless. He had a black heart. He killed people with no remorse. He pulled the trigger without ever thinking about the consequences, without ever thinking, man, I'm never going to get out of jail if I get caught. Not thinking like these people usually do catch people when they kill people, especially when you're out there just killing numerous people. They're looking for you. They're on you. They're like, yo, we got to get this cat. And eventually they get you. And now you're in the county jail and you're like, damn, man, I'm here for the rest of my life. You got nothing else to lose. So you got to start thinking like, I got to break out of here somehow, man. I got to get out of here. And of course he starts plotting with his man that he meets. They're in the same unit, whatever. Might have knew each other from the street. He's facing some serious charges. Nothing like old boy Hurst is facing. Streets are wild, man. But think about what makes a 16-year-old kid become a serial killer. This cat's a serial killer. What makes a 16-year-old kid become an assassin? What was his life like? Was his father in his life? Was there love in the home? Did he grow up in the struggle? I mean, there's no excuses for running around killing people, but I'm sure his life was not easy. I mean, he had to see violence in the house, and I mean, that's what I think. I could be wrong, but who wants to be out on a street and run into this cat in a darkened alley? Not even a dark alley. This dude will shoot you in the middle of the day. He don't care who's around. He don't care that he's on Instagram Live when he guns down the kid. He don't care about any of that stuff. Takes this kid's life. And that video went viral, and we could have put that up, but I don't want to play around with YouTube right now, right? They've been hitting us, so got to be careful. But I mean, you can find that video when he guns the kid down. The kid's on Instagram Live. What was his life like? Seems like his family loved him, cared about him. How about when you get out of the jail, the police drive you to a bus stop right by the jail, and next thing you know, man, you're killed on the jail's property. You're running. Like, ah! The dude's just busting shots at you. Who would ever expect for someone to get murdered at the jail, right? Like, you're killed outside the jail. on the jail property. Yeah, I mean, murders happen inside prison, inside jails, but I don't know if I've ever seen one right outside the jail. Like, that's the place where all the police are at. Like, you want to stay away from that area. You commit a crime over there, like, you're probably, going to get caught. But this cat ain't thinking about that. And how about the dude that he escapes jail with, right? I don't know if this kid has a gun yet, but I'm sure he's out there trying to get one. He went to somebody that he knows. And if he ends up with a weapon, it's a bad day. If I was to do that escape with him, I'd be like, man, listen, I'm out of here, bruh. You're going right, I'm going left, I'm going this way before you get to a gun. Because you never know, man. This kid's a psychopath, right? Something ain't clicking upstairs. Something ain't right. So I definitely wouldn't be with this dude. I'd be like, yo, I'm out of here, homie. I'm good. And if you got a gun, I'm definitely out of here. Because you could become the next victim. The streets are a dangerous place. Especially with this cat out there. Might have to cancel my trip to Kensington. Don't want to run into that dude. But anyway, what are your thoughts? What do you think? Leave a comment. Blood on the Razor Wire TV. Until tomorrow, we're out.